The Mr. Beacon podcast is sponsored by Wiliot, scaling IoT with battery-free Bluetooth.
Welcome to the Mr. Beacon podcast. This episode we are in Finland, in Helsinki, at the Cooper Partner event. And I am delighted to have with me Iacopo Carreras, who's the CEO of ThinkInside. Iacopo, thanks very much for spending some time with us.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, we've spent quite a bit of time together, haven't we? We have a joint customer that's in common. I was a consultant for a Japanese car parts manufacturer. We were looking at RTLS solutions, and you guys were one of, I think, a dozen companies that bid and won, and have done an amazing job. So let's explain a bit about your business and what you do, and then we'll be talking about maybe a little bit about the manufacturing side. But I think retail is probably the theme for the day. So what does ThinkInside do?
Yeah, so ThinkInside is specialized in, let me say, location intelligence, which in other words means creating value out of location data streams. So we work with various and different RTLS technologies, although actually we have been specializing with Coupa. That's also one of the reasons why we're here. Mm-hmm. And our solution takes an RTLS data stream and then it transforms this into knowledge on what is actually happening in a given physical space. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned retail as an example. So in the retail sector, okay, our solution is about understanding customers' behavior. We track how the shopping carts and baskets are moving. We analyze all this data with our platform, and we transform this into knowledge on what people do, where they shop, where they don't shop, where they stop, for how long. And there's a number of BI tools that we use to deliver value out of these data streams.
Okay. So just explain to me a bit about the demarcation between what Coupa does and what ThinkInside does, because we've had Cooper on before, and we know they do angle of arrival, and it's very accurate and very good for real time. Where does their platform stop, and where does yours start?
Yeah, so Coupa, also in the way they used to present themselves, they provide a dot on the map, a very good dot on the map, but that's actually where Coupa stops. Mm-hmm. So there's no data being stored by Coupa, there's no data being processed, there's no semantic on that given dot on the map. It's just an XY coordinate, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So we take it from there, we provide a semantic to this dot. It's a cart or it's like an asset in a manufacturing plant. Mm-hmm. We process this tag, this information from one asset, from many different assets, and then with our tools and technology, we extract knowledge and value out of this data. Right. And so we take a massive number of data points from Coupa, and we make sense of that. This is actually what we do and what we are specialized in.
Okay. So what they're doing is essentially horizontal, and what you're doing is quite vertically orientated. I'm sure there's some components that you can reuse across.
Right.
And let's tweeze that apart. So you do work in manufacturing, and you do work in retail. What are the things that are common to those verticals?
Right. This is a very good question, and sometimes it creates confusion because we're working in different sectors, but historically, we started from retail. That actually is where we have been building our technology. And retail is pretty much the case I was describing before. It's about customers' behavior, and it's about analyzing what shoppers do in a physical and a grocery store. By chance, actually, we ended up in a given opportunity in a manufacturing industry. And while working on that opportunity, we realized that the underlying infrastructure, which is the platform that is processing all this data in big volumes and providing a number of services, is pretty much the same. So, of course, what is changing is the application that is running on top of it, mm-hmm. which means the application that is consuming the data that is being processed and is associating a given semantic and interpretation to that given data. But the underlying core engine is pretty much shared across these different verticals. And this is also the reason how we actually are addressing different markets and different market needs. The platform is pretty much shared. This is probably the key IPR of our company, where we have been investing a lot of work and a lot of efforts. It's a big data platform that it's receiving large volumes of location data streams. It provides a number of tools and services for associating a semantic on this data. It provides a number of techniques and algorithms to kind of segment this data, different tracking strategies and many different things. Eventually, it provides a rich set of APIs through which applications can pull the data and visualize the data and give specific interpretation to this data.
So what are some examples of the functionality that you offer to both of those application areas that is beyond what is offered by Coupa? So I'm thinking, on one hand, you're tracking shopping carts, and the other hand, you're tracking pallets. What are some of the things that you would want to do that are the same for a shopping cart and a pallet?
Well, so there's a number of real-time services that are kind of shared. To make an example, you want to know how many people are shopping in the store, or how many people are waiting at the checkout areas, or how many people are waiting at the serve area on the retail space. If you move to a smart manufacturing plant, you want to know how many pallets are waiting in a given deposit, or how many trolleys are being queuing up on front of a high temperature oven. So there's a number of real-time services that are kind of shared, and it's mostly about interacting real-time visualization of a status of the system. You can have different asset types and many different visualization that you can actually embed and create. One thing. Another thing is really about analytics. If it's about the retail case, it's about measuring the dwell time of customers in the store and the different areas, and making sense of this. Of course, there's a number of things that are specific to the retail, so you want to know and analyze the sequence according to which you go across these different areas, and you want to measure how much time are you spending in one area compared to another, and then you might also have some sort of hierarchical organization of areas. This is pretty much specific to retail, but if you look at from the location analytics point of view, it's about different ways of handling dwell time in the store. If you shift this on the smart manufacturing, it's again, how much time does a given trolley takes for moving from production phase 1 to production phase 2, and how long is basically waiting before it gets into the following phase, and how much is waiting in this given deposit. Also there's a lot of value on analyzing dwell time. Dwell time is a key element on our platform. So as you can see, there's many things that are kind of shared, at least at the core level, but then of course bring to a different semantic and a different interpretation and use when you move it to the application one.
Got it. Last question about manufacturing, and then we'll focus on retail, as I promised. So what is the ROI for a manufacturer in putting your system in place? How do they justify it to their CFO?
This is a very good question. It's typically the most recurring question, and I guess you also have some ideas, since you also helped NGK in building this ROI. But there's many different variables depending on use case. So if it's like the specific project that we have been working together in, that's mainly labor cost. So in that given client, actually they ended up in an industrial plant that was not designed to handle this kind of production load. And this ended up in these thousands of pallets being deployed anywhere in the industrial plant, with a lot of effort in just searching pallets. And this was a problem to the point that there was one person, at least two persons dedicated just to this 24/7 every single day of the year. So in that case, the possibility to simply save this labor cost actually was good enough to justify an ROI over 3 years. And then the interesting thing, and this is something kind of shared across many different projects, is the fact that once you realize you have an infrastructure there and you realize that your minimum ROI is being met in a way, then you also realize that there's so many other things you can actually do on top of that single infrastructure. So you start tracking pallets, but then you realize, okay, but then I can also track forklifts, and then maybe I can improve safety, and then I can also track unmanaged vehicles moving around, and then so I can save time when I need to find them for doing maintenance. So the thing is that you start with an idea of an ROI over 3 years, then you realize that when you sum up the many different things that come to your mind while running the project, probably what used to be 3 years, then it's kind of reduced to maybe a year and a half or
Yeah.
even less.
And I think it was fascinating, some of these concepts we associate with outdoor location services like geofencing have applications
Absolutely.
in a manufacturing plant.
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask more questions about manufacturing. Why would you want a geofence in a factory?
Well, there's many different reasons. The thing is that manufacturing processes are pretty complex, and you need to make sure that things happen in the way they are designed to happen. And many times, since there's a lot of labor, manual labor involved, this is always not met. So to make an example, in this specific case, actually they have some semi-finished goods that are moving from one phase to a second phase, and they cannot go back, because if they go back, these goods are being contaminated and they need to be thrown away. And the thing is that these specific products, it takes quite some time actually to go from one phase to another and to another and to another, which means that if you throw away a product which actually is at the very end of the process, you have been throwing away something like weeks of work. And this is a problem. It's a problem because there's time wasted, there's product wasted, and maybe you're actually dealing an order that you're not able to deliver. And so it's a problem. So what you can do in this case, of course, is you have location, you have your truck and pallets, and you can know and alert if a pallet is basically going in the wrong direction and is basically going into a contamination area. And if that's the case, then you can easily raise an alarm and just make sure that it gets blocked beforehand. This is a simple example, but there's many others that you can think of. Simply, like another example is like workers maybe working in a dangerous zone. Maybe you want to make sure that they do not stay more than 20 minutes in that given zone before leaving. And if the worker is there for more than 20 minutes, you raise an alarm.
Yeah.
The thing is that everything is something that in a way you can manage somehow, maybe with a lot of attention, a lot of procedures. The point is that when it comes to humans, you have to do a given task, you have to do it on time, and many times you just don't care, you just do it, and you realize afterwards that you have gone through a serious risk. Having a system that actually supports you and provide you all the necessary services and tools for making this automatic in a way is what geofencing and location awareness and location-based services is about. And I believe this is really a great value for manufacturing companies and can really help them to save a lot of money, provide a better place to work for workers, and improve a lot of efficiency and many other things happening there.
Yeah, I remember hearing about a use case from one of the big companies that makes fizzy drinks. And who would have thought it, but they actually have dangerous chemicals involved in this. And so there was an issue with wanting to make sure that only people that had been trained could be at a certain station, and so they could put a geofence and say, Jesse can work there, but Fred can't, and I want to know if Fred goes into an area that they're not.
And this
allowed
reminds
to
me
go
also about another use case that we have been working on. And this was like a large food manufacturing company, and they were also working with chemicals. Their major concern was to properly handle some emergency situation that might happen in the industrial plant, which means if something happens, I want to know in real time where are the workers, how many of them are still in the industrial plant, and if that's the case, where they are. So they really want to have a way to better support emergency situations. And of course, this has many implications. Of course, you can really save lives. This is the first thing. If you do things right, you can also have benefits in terms of insurance costs. You can reduce basically your liability and many different things. So there's many different things involved in this and many different benefits. First of all, you save lives of people. That's the key one. And from the financial standpoint, you can also get better conditions and it's so, that's
okay. Let's try and keep our promises. Let's talk about retail. What, first of all, just the nuts and bolts of it, what are you actually tracking in a retail store? You have these Cooper locators. Are you sticking tags on people as they come through the door, or what's the...
No, that's not the case. It's a bit too much, though. So no, our basically gateway to people are the shopping carts and baskets.
Okay.
So this is actually what we're tracking. So we place some small tags on the shopping carts and baskets in a grocery store. And with the Coupa locators and Coupa technology, we're able to fully reconstruct the shopping journey of customers. The accuracy of Coupa is pretty good. So we are in the order of half a meter in a real setting, in even large deployments. So it's like perfect, because in a grocery store, of course, the important thing is to distinguish whether you are in a given aisle or another. And that's the key point for getting some value out of those kind of settings.
Some of these aisles can be big. Are you being asked what side of the aisle someone's on? Because that could make a difference. On one side, you might have spaghetti, and on the other side, you could have bread, you know.
Yeah, there's really a lot of analysis you can actually do on this, especially because given the accuracy of the data we get, we're also able to link, when of course data is available, we're also able to link the shopping journey of customers with sales data, which means that we know where the customer was, we know what the customer was buying, and even more importantly, we know what the customer was not buying. So nowadays,
so they dwelled in spaghetti and then they didn't buy any. That is useful information.
This is useful, and it's completely unknown information to retailer. As of today, the best they can do is to analyze sales. But sales is just about what people are buying, but there's no clue and no information about what people are not buying inside the supermarket.
Well, one kind of not a technical question, but it's a fundamental question is, are retailers ready to use this information? I mean, you can provide some amazing insights, but you know, if this guy's just trying to focus on making sure that enough people have turned up for their shift, then maybe he's not going to be able to use it, and that's a problem in terms of getting the value that justifies the investment.
So this is a very good question. There's no straight answer, meaning that there's a few pioneers in the space that are really experimenting and truly experimenting. So what they're trying to do is really, you know, to kind of bring the online concepts into the physical world. Some of them are even, you know, implementing, you know, A/B testing with different stores, compare one with the other, and pretty advanced. In general, the feeling that I have, you know, we have been, you know, fighting in this area for quite a few years now. The perception that I have is that actually it's getting mature. It's not yet mature, but it's getting mature. So there's more and more interest in this kind of technology. There's a lot of pressure from the market. It's not just about the online. There's also, you know, big players investing a lot of money in technology, and you know, those kind of big supermarkets that kind of are, you know, doing the same thing for, you know, have been doing the same thing for many different years pretty much in the same way, are now feeling a lot of pressure. So they need to invest in technology. They need to start changing. They need really to introduce a new way of running their business. We have all seen, you know, the Amazon Go store, you know, very innovative and futuristic concept on how, you know, shopping might look like in the future. I believe there's still some time before this really gets into like large supermarkets, but you know, it will come. And you know, big players also start to feel this and start to feel that they need to change and to do something.
So can you elaborate on what's the role of the people that are using the information that you're providing, and what are some of the insights that you're providing to those people? I mean, you've got, well, I'll let you flesh out who's who in the retail world.
Yeah. So in general, you know, we're kind of really modeling in depth the funnel. So, you know, in a given store, you know how many people are getting in. You know, let's take as an example a specific aisle, you know, that is of interest for that given store, because maybe it's not performing well. For that
so
given
you've got an aisle where it's just for some reason the sales are not good.
Right. So for that given aisle, what we say is like we model the funnel. So we know how many people are getting into the aisle, how many of them are being engaged, meaning, you know, stopping there for more than 15 to 20 seconds, not just going straight. How many of them are buying. And depending on where the funnel, you know, goes down, you can decide to plan specific interventions for that given aisle. If it's about traffic, people not getting there, so you really need to make sure that the layout is designed in a way that the flows of people eventually reach that given spot of the store. And so you might think of reorganizing the overall layout of the store, at least part of it. If it's about engagement, then you might think of maybe adding some promos there. You really need to slow down the traffic in that given aisle. And you can do this with promos, maybe putting some very interesting products, maybe some interesting brands, maybe some interesting brands at the beginning of the aisle. There are many things that, you know, people specialize in merchandising can think of slowing down the traffic there. And if it's about sales, so people are getting there, they're stopping, but they're not buying, probably the products of that given category are not the one that specific target is interested in. And this could be, as an example, a problem of the demographics. Maybe the store, the shoppers for that given stores are mostly students, and maybe the products that you're displaying in that given aisle is a bit too high-end for that given specific social demographic segment. So you might want to think to sell maybe still pasta, but of a different brand, a cheaper brand, or something like this. And depending on how the funnel is kind of evolving in that given aisle, you can plan specific interventions. And then, of course, if you really want to do things right, it's really about implementing the intervention, measuring the effect exactly in the same way you do the online, and then keep on improving and improving.
Yeah, we talk a bit about this in the Beacon Technologies book, but I just love what you've described, because it's really taking the concepts that have been made possible in the online world, the funnel, and looking at ClickPath, and you're just mapping it onto the physical world, and you're really doing it. That's so cool.
Yeah. That's exactly the objective. It's the objective of our technology, our solution. We still need to work hard to send this message across to retailers, because this is something they can really do. It's not something that they can think of. This is something that nowadays, if they want to do it, they can actually do it.
So let's wrap up and come back to the question that I asked about manufacturing. We'll apply it to retail. Where is the ROI? You've described some of the opportunities and advantages and tools that you can give. Where are you seeing the biggest payback?
So I think also here applies the same concept that I was describing before, meaning that once you have the infrastructure there, the number of in-store services that you can deliver are kind of endless. So to me, the great promise of ROI in retail is if you really think in large on the many different things you can actually do with this kind of infrastructure and technologies. So we have been talking about ROI in terms of category management, in terms of products placement, but this is just one single service of what you could potentially do. If you think about asset optimization, so I can help retailers in identifying the optimal number of shopping carts and baskets. Even this simple use case actually can have a major impact in terms of ROI. You can just move, 20% of your baskets or carts in a different store because no one is using them. They're just enough. Or you can simply think of just replacing those shopping baskets because they're the most used asset, but they're too small for your store. And simply replacing baskets and with bigger ones might provide already a lot of value for a store. So the thing is that even simple things, but based on data, because this is actually the main difference. Retailers usually have store managers that have very important intuitions, but the thing is that if you see things on data, this makes a difference. So coming back to this example of the basket, actually, it's a real case. So there was a store, and of course there was like the intuition that people were using more baskets than cars. But with data, you actually demonstrated that 75% of the people were using more baskets than data. So it's not just more baskets, it's almost all the people are using a basket. And the basket was very small. By simply replacing the basket with a bigger one, actually this led to some interesting ROI on that.
That's really pretty funny, because retailers describe how much you buy as basket size, and the problem with getting the basket size bigger was that the basket was too small.
Yeah, exactly.
The physical basket was too small. Okay, so you can lift sales. That's good.
But there are many other services. Exploiting the Coupa infrastructure is based on Bluetooth. So of course, there's any kind of service you can deliver on a smartphone that can be location-based. So it's about wayfinding. It's about shopping list. It's about, of course, proximity marketing. But in this case, it gets really personalized. I can really send you a message because you're for 20 seconds on front of the pasta. And that's where I'm going to trigger an interaction. So it's very personalized and very contextualized. And in a similar way, I can think of many different operational services for the store. We know that planograms actually get pretty rapidly outdated in terms of where the products are. By integrating locations in the many different operations happening in the store, I can help you to keep the planogram updated.
So the planogram is the map that the merchandiser uses to specify. It's not the store manager's decision necessarily to where they're going to put Cheerios versus Fruit Loops. It'll be in the planogram.
Yeah, exactly. A planogram is
and that could be developed by someone in headquarters.
Usually that's the case, but usually it's also the case that after some time there's a misalignment on how the store is truly organized in terms of product placement and what used to be at the very beginning.
And so how can you help solve that problem?
Because as an example, there's a number of operations in terms of refill that are done on a daily basis, and when you do this kind of operation, you have a scanning device that you scan a product, you see how many of these products are available in stock, and then in case you do a reordering. Now, if this operation is annotated with location, you know that that given product is in that given spot.
So you put a tag on the barcode reader.
You put a tag, or now modern barcode readers are Android devices, and you can think of really integrating that given device.
So they could just broadcast the Cooper payload, and you know where it is.
Yeah.
Very cool. So one more thing that just occurs to me. So you're working with some extremely large retailers who are very sophisticated. They're not new on the block. They've looked at all the other technologies that are out there. Why Bluetooth angle of arrival versus machine vision? You've got these security cameras. They can produce heat maps and that sort of thing. What's the advantage of Bluetooth?
The advantage of Bluetooth is, we know the precision, 0.5 meter and less, even over big areas. It's real time, so you can actually get this data in real time with 1 second latency. This actually is kind of different from video and these kind of things. It's Bluetooth, meaning that you can track assets, but you can track smartphones, and you can think of in the future also to create interactive services over smartphones. So it's a very rich technology that provides a number of features that allows you to really expand from analytics to location-based services to customers and to many different things. So in a way, for grocery stores, I believe is really the optimal one, meaning that it's the one that provides all you need now and probably also in the future.
Yeah, you were talking earlier about linking point of sale data with a specific cart, so you're really able to tie those things closely together. And that's a big deal. If you're doing that integration, then that shows that the retailer has got some belief in this, because it's typically a nightmare to integrate with the point of sale system. And it's a lot of work for you guys too.
No, it's correct. It's a nightmare, and typically it's not information that they share so freely. At the same time, that's actually when you truly get most of the value out of the system, because then you really map very precisely the complete shopping journey of a customer. You know exactly everything on the customer, where it was, where stopping, what buying, what not buying. That's actually when you get most of the value. Otherwise, of course, you have the two data sources, sales and foot traffic. They don't talk to each other, and of course you get some value from both. But summing up, it's not the sum of the two; it's more than that.
Well, the thing I love about the approach you're taking is you, unlike trying to get people to download an app, you catch almost everyone that's shopping in the store.
Yeah.
Most people either have the cart or the basket, and that's always been the thing that's, we have to have this act of faith. Yeah, of course they're going to download the app, and then they never do.
That's a very good point. That's also one of the reasons why we believe this technology is very useful, meaning that even after 1 week, you already have thousands of shopping journeys of customers. Already after 1 week, you have a lot of evidence on what is actually happening there. Because, in a supermarket of at least 2,000 square meters, everyone is using either a cart or a basket for shopping. There's just a small portion that are, maybe buying, bread and milk, just a few things and just live. But those are not really the one that, they are targeting in a way in this kind of analysis. And so this is a very good point, because from day zero, you start to collect plenty of information.
So how many beacons do you need to cover a big grocery store then? For all those carts?
Yeah, it's not too many. So of course, it's the angle of arrival, so there's a bit of variables including the height of the ceiling. But to give you an idea, so if we take like a medium-sized supermarket in Europe, like 2,500 square meters, maybe 3,000, then you'll need something like 20, 25 antenna to get it all.
Okay.
And then of course you have one tag for every single cart and trolley, so it might be 300-400 of them.
Okay, so that's pretty modest. And what about batteries? And I know with our manufacturing customer that was a major concern. Yeah. And tell us, give us a little bit of insight about how you solve the battery life problem.
So Nowadays, there's a lot of things happening in the Bluetooth, low energy, and there's a lot of advancements, especially also on the chipsets of radio with the U Nordic and so on. So now it's even very small tags actually can easily reach like a lifetime of 3 to 4 years, and this is pretty much acceptable for like a retailer. So for a retailer, usually the minimum they actually are looking for is like 3 years. That's kind of, the time range for also planning maintenance operations, and below that kind of threshold might look a little bit too much in terms of investments. 3 years is okay, and 3 years actually is acceptable and reachable with today's Bluetooth low energy tags. Especially the ones like in Coupa, you have an accelerometer, so if the cart is not moving, the tag goes to sleep, and you can define many different strategies in order to properly preserve the battery. And in general, you can always think of embedding a tag in the handle of the cart. In that case, you have plenty of space, and if you think of using alkaline batteries, then you can easily reach 5 to 6 years without problems.
Very cool. So we've covered a lot. We've talked about ROI, strategy, and different markets and technology. It's been fascinating. Iacopo, thanks very much.
Thank you, Steve. It was a pleasure.
All right. So the most important question and the hardest one is, what 3 songs would you take on a journey to Mars?
Okay, so that's the first one. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it comes at the end, but actually it's our warm-up question.
It's a warm-up question.
And I'm not sure, it's supposed to relax us, but I think it's probably does the opposite. It's like, oh my God, I have no idea.
No, so I was talking about 3 songs. Usually I associate songs to moments or, something that kind of is worth remembering. So the first song I was thinking to bring with me in Mars is basically Another Brick in the Wall from Pink Floyd. It was like, the 90s, and it remembers me of some good time I had and a lot of things changing. And so that's the first song.
So what were you doing at that time in your life? Where were you?
I was basically high school. And so a very energetic period, a lot of things happening, and starting to travel to see the world and things like this. So it was a kind of the kind of song I associate with that period of my life. Yeah.
Carefree part of your...
Kind of. That was also part of this memories.
Okay, so Pink Floyd.
This is the first one. The second one is A Beautiful Day from U2. U2 is one of my favorite bands. And
amazing live. Have you seen them live?
Yeah. I see them last year in Rome.
Oh, wow.
It was a fantastic concert, so it was super cool, yeah. And a lot of, it was in the Olympic Stadium in Rome, so it was really fantastic, yeah, a super show. And So Beautiful Day is one of my favorite songs of the band. Yeah. And then I was thinking of, I've seen some Italian, I cannot just bring with me, English songs, so I need to come up with some Italian song. And so the third song I will bring with me is La Donna Cannone from Guccini, who's one of the most popular authors in Italy. It's like, it's just about also Italian traditions and a bit of Italy as it used to be, especially in these days.
Yeah. So whereabouts in Italy do you live?
I live actually I'm originally from Tuscany, from Pisa, although I moved to Trento since 15 years now. So now currently I live in Trento, which is a very nice region in the very north of Italy. It's kind of a mountaineering region. It's a perfect spot for outdoors and for enjoying, the outdoor environment and sports and all this kind of activities. Yeah.
Beautiful. Very good. Thanks very much.